This is the steady state theory I was talking about. This idea was accepted as the second scientific view until the 1920s. This concept stood against the biblical narrative. In 1924, Edwin Hubble discovered in his telescope that there were innumerous other galaxies in the universe, and furthermore discovered that the universe is expanding. In the 60s, Carl Sagan was after saying, the cosmos is all that is, or was, or ever will be. He was saying that it was eternal. But they knew in the 20s, probably in the 30s when it really became well known, that our universe was expanding. If the universe is expanding, what does that mean?
So it started with one.
Started somewhere. You look hungry, Jerry. You can eat that later. It started. I'll tell you something. This did not get received very well by the scientific community that they came up with an idea and some proof that there was a beginning to the universe. They did not like it at all. Matter of fact, Albert Einstein, in his equations that he came up with general relativity, indicated there was a beginning universe. He knew there wasn't, so he put a fudge factor in there to say, well, this is a factor, a cosmological constant that makes it so that it doesn't have a beginning. And he later realized, after studying Edwin Hubble's work, that he had messed up. And he said so publicly. It's the worst thing he ever did in his life, in his professional life. So Albert Einstein understood there was a beginning. Nobody argues there was not a beginning in the universe now. No scientist that anybody takes seriously. Okay, panspermia again. This concept, apart from science, was a reaction to the fact that scientists had concluded that there was no pathway on the earth for a biogenesis. I'll explain what that means so you might know. And the commitment to the idea that God, the Creator, did not exist. In other words, their whole thinking process starts with God did not exist, so how did this happen? And they came up with some really silly panspermia because they couldn't come up with anything else. So anybody want to take a shot at a biogenesis?
Started life.
Genesis means beginning. Bio means life. And A is without. It means life came about from non-life. In other words, there was no, we know that life comes from life. We have had children, we have grandkids. We all know that. We study nature, we know that no life comes from non-life. But origin of life researchers, and believe me, that's a big group of people, biologists, believe that biogenesis is true, and they're trying really hard to figure out how. They make money, they get grants, you're darn right. But nobody has come up with anything in, 30 years of billions of dollars spent. How life could come from non-life. So they came up with panspermia to answer that. That was quickly thrown away. Now we go to the Big Bang. After Edwin Hubble discovered the universe was expanding, it became obvious that the universe had a beginning. This event became known as the Big Bang. Sir Fred Hoyle, a British astronomer who disagreed with the idea, called it the Big Bang as a joke, and it stuck. So the Big Bang was a pejorative term for the beginning of the universe because he thought it was stupid. It's interesting how things get named. All right, let's talk about problems with the Big Bang. I'm going to be running kind of late. I guess we won't have much discussion here. Requires 10 dimensions of space and time. How many dimensions of space and time do we understand? Anybody else than Tom?
3.
Huh?
3.
With 3 space, 1 time, 4 dimensions. We live in a 4-dimensional world. Unless you get into quantum mechanics, then we live into 14 or 20 or string theory. Don't go there. Okay. I'm telling myself not to go there. Okay. But for the Big Bang to be true, the way they say it happened, you would have to have 10 dimensions. Expansion would have had to happen much faster than the speed of light. Relativity says speed of light is a limit. You cannot go beyond it. No explanation as to the source of matter and energy. None. I don't care if they tell you they have it or not, they don't. I've read all their books. They don't have anything. Okay? We'll talk about the multiverse. That's their latest one. I'll tell you about that too. No explanation as to the source of known physical laws. There are 4 major natural forces in the universe. There are all kinds of scientific laws that have been not developed, discovered by scientists. And they have numbers in them. And the question is, why is that number what it is? We'll explain that a little more. They have no explanation as to why is gravity the size it is, why is electromagnetic force what it is. No explanation whatsoever from science. Gave up trying to think. Big Bang Theory cannot be confirmed by the scientific method. We talked about scientific method means it has to be tested by experimentation. Can't do that. Violates the first law of thermodynamics. Anybody want to take a shot at what the first law of thermodynamics says? Kind of.
Create anything from nothing.
Okay, you can't. Energy and matter cannot be created or destroyed. It can be changed from one to the other. We experience that all the time. You burn wood in the fireplace, the wood, which is matter, gives you energy. Okay? But you're really just taking the matter and converting it to energy is what you're doing. Now, the Big Bang would certainly, because they're saying all this matter and energy came from nothing. So that right there, first law of thermodynamics doesn't fly. It also violates the second law of thermodynamics. Anybody go to the second law of thermodynamics?
Things tend towards decay.
Or loss of heat.
Say, I get Terry first and you.
I said it's from order to chaos,
Yeah.
or from energy to a loss.
Yeah.
Loss of heat.
It's still there, you just can't get it anymore. What did you say, Les? Same thing?
Things tend towards decay.
Yeah. Go from order to disorder unless work is done on the system. You see? You can go into an old house that's dilapidated and weather had brought it down and rebuild it. That's because you're putting work into it. But if you have a system like the universe, and there was a beginning to the universe, at that beginning time, everything was more organized than ever before because it was at a point, and when it exploded and expanded, it became more and more and more and more disorganized. It's called entropy. And what happens, entropy always increases, unless work is done in the system. Now, why does the Big Bang, I'm going to go to the next one there. No, back up. Why does the Big Bang violate that? Well, because the story is that after the Big Bang, all these clouds of gas started forming, and then the stars started forming, and then the galaxies started forming, and the planets came from that, and so forth and so on. And they're saying that although the universe is still expanding, probably faster than the speed of light, somehow these particles decide to stop and turn around and grab some more particles. If they're expanding, they're going further and further and further away from each other. You understand? That is what the second law of thermodynamics says. They're not going to come together. They're always going further apart. Okay? That's maybe it's a little bit too much into the physics, but that's the truth. 4 forces of nature: the force of gravity, electromagnetic force, nuclear strong force, and a nuclear weak force, and we won't go into all those, except let's talk about the force of gravity. We all understand what that is. I think I've used this joke before. I think it was last Thursday I said, that's why I weigh 150 pounds, because of gravity. There you go. This is the formula for the force of gravity. This is one illustration I want to make to you and scientists or anybody else that wants to talk about it. Its force is, F is force, due to gravity. M, the big M, is the mass of the big mass like the Earth. The little m is the mass of the objects they need. Divided by r squared. R is this difference between my center of gravity to the Earth, which is about 4,000 miles. So you calculate that all up. That G right there is a number, just comes out of the formula. Because I did a lot of testing on these things, and it came up with these formulas, and they all came out. G was 6.67 times 10 to the minus second kilogram meter squared per second, or something like that. Don't check me on that. But it's a number, and it's always true about gravity. Wow. You know, if that number was off just a little bit, we wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be here, the world wouldn't be here. I mean, according to science, we'll tell you, that's off a little bit, you have no planets forming, you got no suns forming, we don't exist. It had to be exactly right. What's the explanation to that? Who decided that number?
God.
Well, of course. It's so obvious. And they don't have an answer, by the way. They don't even try to answer that question. It is what it is. One guy said, Lawrence Krauss in the last book I read, he says, well, I can tell you why we're here. Because we're here. I can tell you, I know we're here because we're here, and therefore, because out of necessity, that's how we got here. This is a scientist. And it's an argument in science called the argument from necessity. It's obvious that it all worked out because here we are.